On this episode of The Lawyer You Know, we tell you how to buy a house like a lawyer. In part one, we talked about picking a realtor like a lawyer, and now we're going to get into what everybody wants to know, and that's how do you pick a house like a lawyer. There are two ways to go into home buying. Way number one is you see it, you want it, you buy it. You pay sticker price, it's a new build, whatever they say it costs, you want it, you pay over ask. Whatever it takes, get it done. I want this house. This is my dream house. I can afford it. I want it. That's the first way you buy a house. That is not the way this guy buys a house. So we're going to talk about how I buy a house, and how to buy a house like a lawyer is to find the best possible deal. And why this is so sweet is because as soon as you step into your new house, you have built-in equity, you have no stress, you can make this house your dream home, and you're already ahead of the game for the rest of the time that you own or live in this house. It's going to become a moneymaker for you. When you buy right, you're always ahead. So buying a house this way and following these steps will give you automatic built-in equity and will reduce your stress of owning a home by an infinite amount. So let's start. Step number one. In any real estate video, talking from realtors, real estate investors, lawyers, whatever it is, location, location, location. That is step number one in any buying process. Never compromise on location. I don't care about the price. I don't care about the incentives. I don't care how new or nice the house is. You don't want to go into a bad location. You don't want to go an hour and a half away from work. You don't want to go out in the boonies. You don't want to go far away from everything that you do in life. You don't want to go outside the good school zones. You don't want to go outside where everyone wants to live, because there's a reason those houses are cheaper. They are so hard to sell because location is something you can't change. So location is going to be most important, and that's the first thing you have to figure out is where do you want to live? Where do you want to buy a house? Figure out the location first. Step number two, and this is a very difficult step, and that is find a house that has been on the market for an extended period of time. I have friends that I literally laugh with at the pain they go through. As much as I hate it when they go through it, it is funny sometimes that a house has been on the market for 6 hours and they're already going to see it with their realtor. They want to put an offer in the first 24 hours, and then they're surprised when it goes for over ask and there's a bidding war, and they say, submit your best and final offer. We're going to consider all offers at 8 p.m. tonight. It's excruciating, and it almost never works out for people that try to make smart decisions with houses, because once you get into a bidding war the first day a house is up, that's peak value for that house for the most part. As the market keeps going up, every house has risen in value, so it doesn't always work out that way, but sooner or later the market will go back down, and those will be the houses hit the hardest. So when I say an extended period of time, I say at least 90 days. Make sure the house has been on the market for 90 days, and there's a number of reasons for that, but you can even set your Zillow or MLS settings to not even show you houses that haven't been on the market for 90 days. If you can find one that's been on the market for 365 days or more, that's gold. The last two houses I've bought have been on the market for more than 365 days, and they were sweet deals from day one when we stepped foot in that house. Step number three. Once you found a house that's been on the market a long time, figure out why. Figure out the problems that that house has. Now, if the problem's location or sinkhole or settlement issues, as some of them say, move on. Not for us. We don't want to deal with those types of huge problems that you just can't really fix. And those are houses that have a scarlet letter on them and are really hard to resell if they have settlement issues or sinkholes or any problems like that. So once you figure out that those are not the problems, and the problems are instead a dated house with ugly carpet or floors or cabinets you don't like, and instead you find out that the problem's just a dated house, floors you don't like, ugly paint color, the kitchen's really old, the light fixtures are ugly, whatever it may be, the grass is overgrown, they haven't taken care of the outside, even if the roof is bad or the AC is bad. Those are known problems that you can deal with and known problems that you can build in to your offer and your purchase price. So we like to find out what those problems are so we can use them as leverage. Step number four, find out all you can about the seller of that house. And this is really important because, again, you're only looking at houses that have been on the market for an extended period of time. So you need to figure out if it is a family that has already purchased their new house, if it's a family that's looking for their new house, because if they've already purchased their new house, they want out. They're desperate to sell that house. You have a good chance to get a great deal. If they're a family that's just living in the house and they put it up for sale to see if they could get top dollar for it, and they're not even going to look for a new house until they sell this house, well, they're less desperate to get out. You have less leverage, less likely to get a good deal. Is it a real estate investor just trying to maximize his profits? because you can look into that and say, hey, listen, you can still profit this much and move on to your next job. Take this amount of money, take this profit that we're willing to offer you, because you can always find out what they paid for the house and how much they put into it, so you can make sure your offer is going to get them some profit so they can move on to the next deal. Or is it somebody that's so wealthy and has all these houses and just doesn't care if they sell any of them? They're going to let them sit till they get top dollar. No thanks. You don't have leverage in that situation. Move on to the next one. Go see the house multiple times. Now, this is important for a multitude of reasons. Number one, they will know that you like the house, and that's okay. Because when we get to what kind of offer you're going to make, you want them to know that you're actually interested in the house. Tell them a little bit about you, a little bit about your family, and why you want this house and why this house would be good for you. It's also important to point out the flaws in the house that you see. The dated carpet, the roof's obviously bad. Oof, that's going to be a big job. It's going to need a new AC. I'm going to need to put in a pool. Whatever it may be, make sure you point that out when you go see it a number of times. And at least one of the times that you go, bring a general contractor or a handyman type of friend that's going to be able to give you an idea of all the work that's going to be done, and somebody who can give you an estimate of cost for the work that's going to be done, because you're going to build that into your offer. And it's going to be very important. Next step, number 5, do not be afraid to come in with a real low ball offer. What's the worst that can happen? They can say no. They can get mad and move on, and fine. If that's how they want to deal with real estate, they don't take it as a business and they're not just trying to sell their house for money, but they put a lot of emotion into it, then you can move on. But don't be afraid to come in with a lowball offer, and you explain that lowball offer because of all the work you have to get done. You can tell them at that point, remember that guy I brought or that gal I brought? Well, they're a general contractor. They're a handyman or woman, and they know how to fix these things, and they've given me this estimate of cost. I'm going to have to spend all this money before I can even move into the house. And include everything you could ever think that you're going to do to this house, including a pool, which can be $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 additional, and you can build that into your lowball offer. When you make a lowball offer, don't be afraid to bid against yourself. They may just say no and not counter. Don't be afraid to come back with a little bit higher offer that's not quite as far of a lowball, but make sure you mention how you hate to bid against yourself, but you're going to, and come up $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, whatever it may be, depending on how low that first lowball offer is. Don't be afraid to disagree with your realtor, because they hate lowball offers, any realtor on any side, but explain to them why you're doing it because of all the work that has to be done in this house. And they'll be much more likely to agree with you if you followed the previous steps and picked a house that's been on the market for an extended period of time, because that's when deals can be made. Next, as you're walking the house multiple times, make sure you look for anything that's left behind. Are there couches you like? Is there a TV you like? Is there anything outside that you like furniture-wise, or trees, or anything that might go when the seller leaves the house? And build that into your offer. Ask for anything. If you want it fully furnished to stay the way it is, if you like that furniture, if you like the TVs or the surround system, whatever it may be, ask them to leave that in the house and build it into the purchase price, even if it's a lowball offer, because all they can do is pull it out, say no, or make a counteroffer with that in it. It can't hurt to ask for those items, and it gives you more negotiating room and more compromising to do as you go throughout the process. Because if you ask for $5,000 worth of furniture and TVs, well, then you can pull that out and say, look, my offer's $5,000 better now because I'm letting you keep all that stuff. Next number, when you make an offer, I advise don't put any contingencies on it as far as selling your house or whatever it may be, because those offers are ugly and nobody wants to deal with those offers. But I would start with a long closing period, maybe 90 days or 60 days, but some longer period to close than you know that seller's going to want to do, especially if they're desperate to get out of this house because it's been on the market for a year. So you start with that 60-day close, and you know that whatever their counteroffer is going to be a 15 or 30 or 45-day close to try to get it closed quicker. Every seller wants to close the house quicker. And this gives you another step to compromise on. It gives you more leverage. You can say, I'm going to stay at this money price, but I will come down to a 45-day close or a 30-day close. So you're giving and taking with that compromise and moving closer to make this deal happen. Next, negotiate every penny. As you're going, get them down as far as you possibly can. If you have to negotiate by $10,000, $5,000, $1,000, $500, whatever it may be, make sure you squeeze them down as far as you can. And that being said, if you feel like you've squeezed a great deal, but you're still $5,000 apart or $1,000 apart, don't be afraid to pull the trigger, buy that house, spend the extra $5,000, because on a 30-year fixed mortgage, it's really not going to be that big of a difference in your payment. We'll talk about that more in another video, but don't be afraid to pull that trigger once you get them down to the bottom of their barrel, because you know at this point, if you followed all the other steps, you know you're getting a good deal, especially if you're getting some furniture or TVs or whatever it may be thrown into the deal. It's not a bad thing to jump up at the very last minute and take their last offer to lock in the deal, get the equity, move into your brand new house that you get to fix exactly how you want. Those ugly carpets or ugly floors are now going to be the exact floors you want, and you built those floors into the purchase price, so they're basically free and taken care of by you. And they're the exact floors you want. They're not the nice floors that somebody who remodeled the house before you picked out, and are not the exact color or type of wood or tile or whatever it may be that you want in your house. So don't be afraid, even though you're negotiating every penny, to pull the trigger on a price that's about $5,000 more than you thought you were going to get the house for. The next to last piece of advice, which is very important and going to sound contrary to my previous point, is don't be afraid to walk away. If you're not getting close enough to where you feel comfortable that you're getting a great deal, don't be afraid to walk away. Because if the house has been sitting there for a long time and you've got a desperate seller, if you walk away, chances are they're going to reach back out to you. They're going to try to sell you this house. You might be the first bite or only bite they've ever gotten. So if you're willing to walk away, sometimes that's when the greatest deals are made. If you can't get close enough to where you feel comfortable pulling that trigger, if you're not only $1,000 or $500 or $5,000 apart and you don't feel comfortable pulling that trigger, don't be afraid to walk away. And the last point, as always with these videos, you will hear me say, be nice and be polite. Don't be cutthroat, just be honest and upfront with them. Tell them what you're willing to spend, tell them why you can go there, include all of the stuff you know you have to do to the house. Build a relationship with that seller. They can be a potential networking or marketing opportunity for you in the future. They may use the services for whatever you do. As I always say, that's how lawyers do things. They use every opportunity as a marketing opportunity, as an advertising opportunity that somebody may use them in the future. And when you're buying somebody's house, that's a perfect opportunity to do so, because you've gone through this entire process with them, and they should know at this point that you're good at what you do because you were so good throughout this negotiating process and you got a great deal on this house, and you're going to use their house for the future with your family. If you pick a house like this, there's no doubt that you're going to have equity in your house. You're going to do well whenever you do decide to sell this house or turn it into a rental property. If you like this content, hit the like button and subscribe to our page so you won't miss any of the future episodes on how to do things like a lawyer. The reasons you want to follow these steps in picking a house is because you want to set up a situation where you as the buyer have as much leverage as possible. If you pick out a house that's been on the market for 2 hours, the seller has all the leverage. If you follow these steps, you're going to have all the leverage in a buying opportunity for your house.